As the faithful continue to pray for the health of Pope Francis, I spoke exclusively to Filipino priest Father Gregory Gaston. He's the rector of the Pontificio Collegio Filippino. In the second part of my conversation with him, he spoke about Pope Francis' similarities with his predecessors and what it was like traveling with the Pontiff when he visited the Philippines in 2015.
It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Actually, I was, I think, with 11 other Filipinos in that papal trip. No? So it began here in Rome with a little orientation, I think, for 3 days. No? The other journalists were here. And then I helped them, of course, no, with the Italians. I was the one translating for them. All the indications, all the plans, even the materials were all in Italian. It was a beautiful experience. And it was also would give you a sense. It would give you a sense of closeness with the Holy Father. For example, from Rome to Sri Lanka, I think 30 minutes into the flight, the Pope appeared at the left. He greeted all of us using the microphone of the plane, and then he went down the aisle and shook hands with each one of us, with each of the journalists. So he went one by one, greeting us, chatting a bit. I gave him some copies of my little booklets for altar servers, and then he continued on his way. And then that picture that you mentioned on CBCP News, that was taken on the last leg, meaning from Rome back, from Manila back to Rome on Philippine Airlines. And actually, I requested for a group photo with the Pope, with the Filipino journalists, but the one in charge, the priest in charge, Padre Lombardi at that time, he told us to, well, just wait. No? So I thought he would be calling us as a group, but then he started calling us one by one, to be seated there with the Pope and then to have our pictures.
You've been ordained as a priest by St. John Paul II back in 1993, so that's one blessing, and you've had at least 10 years to experience working with Pope Francis. I'm wondering what similarities or differences, if you will, you're finding between the two, as both of them have really ended up endearing themselves to Filipinos here and around the world.
Yes, Kathina. Actually, when Pope John Paul died, because he was Pope since 1978, if I'm not mistaken, and until 2005. So the people were so used to Pope John Paul that maybe we had this little feeling, we were wondering how Pope Benedict would be. And then some of us would think that, well, he was like Pope John Paul, maybe he was a scholar. Pope John Paul was also a scholar. He had a lot of publications. And then Pope Benedict as well, he has his collections and all these things as a theologian prior to becoming a pope. So at least personally, I was thinking, maybe everything would be similar to John Paul. But then I also realized later that, well, every pope, just like every person, would have his or her own personality.
But right now, as rector of the Pontificio Collegio Filippino, what are you doing to keep the faithful in prayer?
So my role is very simple. I just try to facilitate things so that our priests could do whatever they would have to do. So meaning their ongoing formation, spiritual life, even physical here, community life, the food, the kitchen, a little bit the garden as well, just to maintain a little, and the building, the renovations, all these things. And also make sure that they could study. So we have our library, we could also, we have access to the libraries in the universities. And then when it comes to prayer life, every Sunday, you know how many masses we celebrate for the Filipinos? Every Sunday in Rome alone, 60 masses, 50 to 60 masses for the Filipinos. And then yesterday was a Sunday, so we had many masses. And that was also the opportunity, the time for us to pray for Pope Francis in all those masses. Even here at Collegio Filippino, we had the 8 o'clock Sunday Mass. We also prayed for Pope Francis.